Good morning. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Good morning to you, good morning to you. We're all in our places with bright, shiny faces, and this is the way to start a new day. How many remember that from kindergarten? Oh, come on, don't tell me I'm that old. I'm the only one. That was Romper Room. Good morning, I am Clyde Johnson, and I have the pleasure of serving as the Executive Director of College Standards and Accountability here at Carroll Community College, and at the moment, the chairperson for the CCRE, the Carroll Citizens for Racial Equity. We are so glad that you're here with us this morning for our annual conference. We have a packed agenda, and we're not going to prolong anything. I want to bring to you this morning my esteemed president, Dr. Rose Mintz, who's going to bring you greetings on behalf of the college.
Good morning. When Clyde and I were talking about the conference and preparing for welcoming all of you here, he told me that the theme is Stronger Together. And you may not know, but in November, when I had my inauguration, that was the theme for the inauguration. So I'm like, brilliant, Clyde, how smart can they be? And he even made these pins that say Stronger Together and have a rose on them. So Clyde tied that all together for me. So Stronger Together is absolutely how we need to operate. Perhaps in these times more than ever, we need to come together and be united in the ways that we support each other and progress. So with a wonderful, brilliant theme on our beautiful campus and with a fabulous slate of speakers, I know that it's going to be an absolutely great day. Thank you for being here. Stronger Together.
So as we get started, just a couple of housekeeping. Restrooms are here to my right through these doors, or you can go out the back door in that side hallway. We have refreshments and things for you across the hall. But if you need anything else, our cafeteria is down the hallway on the right. So if there's another muffin that you need or anything extra, please help yourself down the hall. At any time, step out, take care of yourselves. We do have with us this morning sign interpreters, so please welcome them. Hello. So if anyone needs that assistance, you're more than happy to move forward if you need. Gary Hahnemann is here. Gary, I know we're putting you on the spot, but come on up or stand up. As you know, Gary is one of the founders of CCRE. Gary left us and moved away, and he came back for this conference. So we're so happy to have Gary with us. And if there are any other elected officials from Westminster or Carroll County, anybody? If not, we're just so happy to see all of you, and we're grateful. I'm going to bring Amy up, who's going to bring greetings. Come on, Amy.
Good morning, everybody. I am Amy Baker. I work at the Carroll County Health Department. This conference is brought to you by our CCRE, so our Carroll Citizens for Racial Equity, in partnership with our class, Culturally and Linguistically Appropriate Services Work Group. I am the chair for that work group. We've been operational for about 4.5 years. And I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on that so you know what class is when it gets talked about later in the day. And really, it's an effort to provide effective, equitable, understandable, and respective quality services to anybody who walks through your door. And we do that by being responsive to people's cultural and linguistic needs. We look at their preferred languages, we look at their health literacy, and we look at the ways they communicate, so that we are really making strides in all of our agencies, whatever we do, to make people feel like they are walking into a very welcoming environment. So, we want to make sure that we are doing that. And you can, do I do the slide? Click it. Oh, just click it. So basically, class has standards, and you can go right to the thinkculturehealth.hhs.gov to look at this more thoroughly. But we write strategic plans based on governance, leadership, and workforce, communication and language assistance, and engagement, continuous improvement, and accountability. And that's something that we do at the health department, but also all of our partner agencies who are part of this work group are responsible for their own strategic plans. And we're hoping that you walk away with some ideas today about how to do your own strategic planning for class and a welcoming environment at your own agencies. With that, I'd really like to thank our planning committee, those from CCRE and class who are worked on this conference. Can you please stand up? Thank you. I know you don't want to, but can you please stand up? This has been, we have people all around the room. I want to thank everybody who has put this together. It's taken months of time to bring this conference together. We have a wonderful, wonderful day for you planned. Lots of kind of some old things, some new things, and lots to think about. So please enjoy the day, and I'm going to hand it back to Clyde. Thank you.
There we go. So we're ready to get started. One of the other things we just wanted to announce is that this is being video recorded by the Carroll Media Center, and it will just be the keynote. So any discussion, we will turn that off. So be free to have the thorough discussion that we need to have, and don't feel any anxiety about your being recorded or your comments are being recorded, and somebody might hear them and take what you say this way or that way. We are being diligent about that, so any conversations that we have will not be recorded today, just the keynotes, okay? As we get started today, I am excited to bring as the conference opener, the great Rosalyn Taylor O'Neale. Powerful woman. Great discussions that we had about planning. She has a wealth of knowledge and experience. She has been drawing from a distinguished career spanning over 40 years and in 50 countries. Rosalyn has held the executive leader positions at Campbell Soup Company, the executive vice president of MTV Network. She didn't hire me. She should have. I mean, I like to be on TV. But throughout her journey, Rosalyn has garnered recognition for her exceptional leadership and advocacy. She was named one of the top 100 most influential Blacks in corporate America, top executives in diversity, and 100 top executives in America. And the list goes on and on. She has a powerful voice, and I welcome her now to set the tone for us this morning as we begin this journey. Rosalyn.
Thank you. Thank you. So I tell people, you know, I was named one of the top 100 Black leaders in corporate America. There were only 10 of us, so, you know, it wasn't. That's my own private joke. I tell it every time. I really like it. I think it's probably closer to truth than not. So I don't want you to be concerned about it. Okay, so Gallup did a piece, and they came across a quote that I want. Across 52 countries and territories, representing 76% of the world's adult population, hope consistently emerged as the most important characteristics for leadership. Hope. I think that there is no more important topic today than this notion of hope. Now, I'm going to talk this morning about how we got from black and white, from EEO to DEIB, JED, all of the other letters that we're now using. But I want to start with this notion of hope. Here's what I want to ask you to do. I want you to pair up. Now, some of you don't know what pairing means. That's like two people, okay? I know. You think here at a college they would know, but you know, what happens is we get to a place where it's like, well, but there are three of us left. What do? I don't know. So I have my own work, you have yours. Pair up. I want you to spend 2 minutes each. I'm going to give you just a few minutes to think of something. I want you to share with the other person a time when you had hope. Something that in fact gave you hope. Don't care where it is, when it happened, any of those things. Just think of a time. And in 2 minutes, I want each one of you. Now, when you are the listener, I want you to listen carefully. Don't dismiss, don't discuss, just listen to our stories. So give you a moment, I'll be quiet. Think of a time, you're going to just in 2 minutes tell somebody about a time when you just had hope. Okay? Hold on, I'll tell you when to start. Just hang on, hang on. I didn't say start. Well, you're out of control now. Okay, start. Okay, wrap it up. That is so fabulous that all you have to do is go shh. Because most of us grew up at a time when your parents first went shh, and if you didn't, shut up. You know, this was before you could call, I don't know, Child Protective Services. I grew up in the time when my mama just popped me upside the back of the head. I said shh. So it always works. By the way, going louder just makes people get louder. Just FYI, for those of you who care. Somebody, just give me a story. Anybody? Come on, give me your story of hope. Here we go.
Should I tell mine?
I don't care whose story you tell.
So today I met Stephanie, and she talked about keeping hope due to the clientele that she serves in her work, and how oftentimes they come in and they are very hopeless. So she tries to, keep the hope.
Yeah. Thank you, and thank you, Stephanie, for giving her your story, and not permission to tell it, but, it was good, it was good. One other one, okay, go over here. Right at this table is one of my closest friends, Dr. Adriana Rojas. Yes, who has a mouthful of food there, which is why I did it.
Hi, I'm Vicki. I never talk in front of people, so there's always a first. So my story is my sister has cancer, and 5 years ago, she got her voice box removed, and we took my kids and we went to Ocean City. They said she would only make it a couple months. That was 5 years ago. And then she ran into her doctor, and he goes, "I thought you died. Your cancer's gone."
Wow. Yes. Thank you. The reason that I start this conversation this way is there's a lot going on. And a lot of us are starting, people come to us and they're starting at some point of, it's hopeless. And I say, no. Anybody here got grandchildren? Raise your hand. Remember that first time you saw that grandbaby? That is the epitome of hope. There's this little one who looks at you and you will do anything in the world for them and intend to. And you don't care what their parents think or want or any of those above. We don't care. Parents, I want you to know if you have given me a grandchild, I no longer need you. I still love you, but I don't need you. I just, and ask, if you don't believe it's true, ask any of your parents and they'll tell you, you were good for the first some number of years and I'm glad I let you live, okay? So we're going to start this conversation. People are, we hear things like the person's a DEI hire. And so I want to help us to move forward. Come on. Backwards? Do I need help? Hold on, we'll see. No, I don't.
Just hope.
Just hope, that's right. I was born in 1950. That's right, I was born in 1950. Yes, In 2 months, I will be 3/4 of a century old. What kind of crap is that, you know? So are you all applauding because I'm still alive? Because, I mean, I think that's a really good thing, okay, you know.
You look amazing.
Oh, yeah, yeah. The outside is lying about the inside, okay? Just, you know. So in 1950, I was born colored. It's what it says on my birth certificate, which was the term that they used after they used mulatto, okay? And I was born into segregation. I was born in Louisville, Kentucky. I was born into legalized, required segregation. So in 1960s, along came this thing where the government said it is not actually fair that we don't allow people to have an equal opportunity when it comes to employment. So EEO, equal employment opportunity, was in fact literally moving from required segregation, legalized discrimination, to allowing people to have an equal opportunity when you walked in the door relative to employment. Pay, the ability to be hired, the ability to be terminated, whatever those things were. In the 1990s, we started talking about this thing called affirmative action. Now, I bring this up for you to say, I want to show you the questions that came up as people began to talk about it. Affirmative action came about because we said, you deserve to have an equal opportunity to be hired in any organization. And we're going to measure that. We're going to say to you, there's got to be something that tells us that you're doing it. Because we said, will you provide people an equal opportunity? And you said, sure, absolutely. And 5 years, 8 years, 10 years later, nada. Same number, people who didn't have equal opportunities. So along came a group of people who said, we need to measure you on the actions that you take, the affirmative, positive actions that you take towards becoming an equal employment opportunity organization. The reason I use those words in that way is, first of all, I'm a lit major, and it's the literal part that is really important for us. Equal employment opportunity was about having an equal opportunity. Those words, in fact, are modifiers when it came to employment. And because it wasn't happening, they said, we need to make sure that you are taking positive actions, affirmative actions, which means that you go to historically black colleges if you want to hire black and African American people. It means that you open up your recruiting and you tell people, we will not discriminate on the basis of. Now, people had a fit. I mean, they were like, was she an affirmative action hire? Remember hearing that any place? Oh, they were an affirmative action hire. Isn't affirmative action the same as quotas? You are required. That means that I don't have a choice. I got to have like X number of people and it's quotas. And we said to them, no, it's not. No, she is not an affirmative action hire unless everybody is an affirmative action hire. Isn't this reverse discrimination? Oh, my favorite. Now, this is in the late 90s, early 2000s. Isn't this just reverse discrimination? People are like, oh, reverse discrimination. And I said to them, reverse discrimination. How is reverse discrimination different from discrimination? We don't give you an opportunity. We don't hire you. We don't interview you. I don't understand how discrimination and reverse discrimination are different. But you and I know what code is. And we knew. We're like, it's discrimination if it happens to me. It's reverse discrimination if it happens to you. And we say to people, there's no such thing, there's no difference. Not getting hired because of my race, my gender, my age, any of those things has the same pain in my soul as it has in anybody else's soul. Makes me mad in the same way it makes other people mad. Then along came a couple of people who started talking about, there's got to be more, and we started talking about this thing called differences. I was working at Digital Equipment Corporation as an affirmative action consultant in the late 80s, early 90s. And a woman by the name of Barbara Walker, who was my mentor in this work, started talking about valuing differences. And people were like, what do you mean valuing differences? And she said, which of those two words don't you understand? You know what valuing is. And they're like, well, what kind of differences? And she said, the differences that matter when we talk about employment. And we started talking about valuing differences, and then we started talking about this notion of inclusion. I want you to understand that we didn't get to inclusion the way you normally think. First, we had to say to people, there is no such thing as diverse discrimination. See, it's the same two words. One's turned upside down. I actually had it reversed earlier, but it looks weird. This looks a little weird. Reversed looks really weird, but you can get Google to do it for you if you want to. But there's no difference. It doesn't matter. I was doing work, as people know, 40 plus countries, 5 continents, 40 plus countries. I have done this work. And in the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, we started realizing that the word diversity didn't work in other countries. Because, people were in other countries are like, we don't have diversity issues, which is a lie. Well, it's not a lie, it's just not true. They said, we don't have diversity issues in the UK. We don't have diversity issues in Portugal. I was in Puerto Rico. We don't have diversity issues in Puerto Rico. We have issues around race, but we don't have issues around anything else. Well, we don't actually have issues around race. We have some around gender, but we don't have them around gender. We're not sure what we have. So we started talking about inclusion because people were like, diversity doesn't work. It just doesn't work here. And people told us, look, diversity doesn't work in our country as a term. We like inclusion better. So we said, okay, because we're a very accommodating culture. Okay, then we'll just change the word. So we began to talk about diversity and inclusion, because that's how we are. That's where D&I came from. It became diversity and inclusion, because here we could talk about diversity. We got on a plane, we went to Europe, and we said, well, we got to talk about inclusion. Now, some of us, as I'll talk to you about later on in the day, had enough courage to say, I'm not buying that. I know we've got issues around diversity and inclusion everywhere we go. But we started talking about diversity and inclusion because of the global lens. Okay, George Foreman. No, that's the grill. George Floyd. That's not the grill. 2020. We're all locked in our houses with COVID. And people started talking about DEI. Now, DEI, I need you to know where it came from. Those of us who do this work every day, somebody will say, what do you do? And I say, well, I do work around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We got tired of talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Well, it's a program that deals with diversity, equity, and inclusion. And after a while, the 3 words, you begin to think, did I say them right? Are they in the right order? So we got an acronym. We said DEI. We didn't say DEI because we thought DEI was one word. It's not like affirmative action, positive actions. It is, in fact, 3 separate, distinct concepts. Now, that's important because as you leave here today and all the rest of the days, when somebody talks to you about a diversity, a DEI issue, ask them which one of the letters are they talking about. ask the question. Oh, I'm sorry, are you talking about the D or the E or the I? Don't give them the words. Are you talking about the D or the E or the I? Because a whole lot of people have no idea what the letters stand for. So you say to them, she's a DEI hire. Are you talking about the D, the E, or the I? Well, all three of them. No, you can't be talking about all three of them because they're different. They're very different words. So, we began to hear the plane that crashed because it was a DEI hire. Are you talking about the D? Diversity of the ways in which we're similar and different? So you're saying the way in which we're similar and different caused the plane to fall down out of the sky? If we were all the same, it wouldn't have fallen out of the sky? First of all, we can't be all the same. Oh, you know, DEI is just reverse discrimination. Once we're back to, okay, because we never settled that there is no such thing. It hurts my feelings if you don't hire me. It hurts his feelings if you don't hire him. Our feelings aren't less hurt, or more hurt. And what about white men? I love this quote. It is very helpful to suggest that diversity, and I put in and inclusion, isn't an end in itself. We need to have diversity. That's not an end. You don't have a choice. In this room, okay, if you have children under the age of 10, raise your hands. Now look around the room. Okay, put your hands down. If you were born outside the U.S., for whatever reasons, raise your hands. Look around the room. If you have ever had to use a wheelchair for your mobility, raise your hands. If you have an artificial something, eye, hip, leg, knee, teeth, whatever, raise your hand. Yeah. Diversity it's not an option. You can't have us in this room and go, well, yeah, but there are a lot of women, and so it's not diverse. And I think, I don't think you and I are the same. I could be wrong. I'm not. It's a condition. I love this slide. And you can see it came from Unsplash. I just love that slide. We have gone from, in this work, from black and white. When I grew up, there were black people and white people. Louisville, Kentucky did not have an Asian population that I remember seeing. All of the work that was done was about black people and white people. Black people being hired, white people being discriminated against. That's because we looked at it through a lens that was limited. We are now in a world of technicolor. This is your population. These are the people that you will serve and teach and help and lead and develop and fight with and fight for. This is the world that we live in. This is the world that requires us to have the courage to lead in a way that honors the diversity that we have, to lead in a way that understands how important it is to create a place where people feel like they belong. And to create a place where people feel included. If you had come into this room and you got to that door and they said, oh, you know what? You got on blue pants. We don't let anybody with blue pants in. Too bad. Well, maybe you all could sit back in a little corner. Just all of you all with the blue pants on, go sit in that corner. Most of you with blue pants on would be like, I'm out. I have a root canal I'd rather go have than put up with this BS, right? So as we do this, I want you to know, in the end of this day, we will have questions. And you will have questions, and we will have answers. But I want you to remember something. This is our work. This is our hope. You are my hope. You are my legacy. You are the people who I say I'm turning this world over to because I have run this race long enough. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to walk a little slower. I say to Adriana and my colleagues who are, much younger than I am, you are my hope. You are my legacy. And I'm turning this world over to you. And I believe that you will do this. Thank you very much. Somebody else do something.
Let's thank again Rosalyn for beginning to take the plane off. You will hear from her again this afternoon. So she's opening us, she's closing us, she's helping us fly higher. I do want to share that she is an author of several books. The latest one is Nothing's Changed, but Everything's Different. So I think that's a great message. And if I didn't learn anything else, is I get to ask the question. So what are you talking about? The D, the E, or the I? I can't wait to say that. I mean, that just sounds so smart and nasty. I can't wait. I can't wait to use that. Our keynote this morning is coming from Dr. Karen Francis. Dr. Francis is a medical sociologist by training and has grounded her work in the principles of cultural and linguistic competence and its influence on delivering effective services across human services systems. She has more than 30 years of experience in managing, planning, and delivering training and technical assistance at the international, the national, the state, and local levels. Dr. Francis has served as a cultural and linguistic competence consultant to several federal, state, and local human services. So we welcome her today to Carroll Community College and to you as she broadens our mind and takes the plane even higher. Dr. Francis.
All right, can you hear me? Okay. Hello, Carroll County. How are you? I drove 45 minutes up the road here this morning to get here, and it was just a pleasant drive coming up. I'm so honored to be here with you all this morning. And I hope that, we're going to have some takeaways. I'm seeing the room is full, kind of really, really full, and that's really, really nice. But throughout the day, there's one thing I'm going to ask you all to do. Make sure that you connect with somebody that you don't know. All right? Get to know them. Get to learn about them. The work that they do, the agency that they're a part of, something special about them. Do the networking, because that's what's important here, because when you walk out of this room this afternoon, back into your communities, back into those agencies, back into those organizations that you work in, these connections are going to be important. So make me that promise. At least one person today that you don't already know, just reach out and say, hey, what's up? Can I get to know you? Is that all right? Okay. So I'm not going to move around a whole dickens of a lot this morning, to be honest with you, but I just want to say I'm just really pleased and honored. Thanks again. And just want to say to the Class Health Equity Committee, the Carroll Citizen for Racial Equity, and I should say it's the Class Health Work Group, right, Amy? There you go. All right. The Carroll Citizens for Racial Equity and the Carroll Community College, thanks for supporting this event and for convening the conference, really. And Rosalyn Taylor O'Neale. Oh, hello, yes. Thank you for your profound words and for your illustrative sharing about the history of equity in the workforce. You really set the stage today. And I too will not forget to ask, is it the D you mean, the E you mean, or the I that you mean? All right. So, you really set the stage for us because I truly believe that charting a course forward requires that we keep top of mind where we're coming from. It's important. And so again, thank you. So this plenary session that I'm going to do today here is entitled Culture, Inclusion, and Quality. And I hope you all can hear me, right? Together, we uphold shared values and perspectives, committing ourselves to delivering services that meet the needs of everyone in our community. Now, our mission is to achieve quality outcomes by building an inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and respected. Quality isn't just about reaching goals now, all right? It's about fostering a space where mutual respect and values can thrive. And yes, we are stronger together in that pursuit. You're probably going to hear me say that 100 times today. We are stronger together. Now, as a sociologist, I deeply ponder the intricate dynamics of communities, examining how they interact, react, evolve, flourish, through and understanding the nuances of collective and individual experiences. I get excited about that stuff, y'all. I've worked in diverse communities all across the world and with numerous social service agencies providing training and technical assistance, as well as conducting quite a bit of research. And so I often find myself wanting to learn, wanting to focus on understanding dynamics of multiculturalism, navigating the complexities of societal structures, and fostering environments where mutual respect and cultural inclusivity are paramount. So, I'm inspired by the words of W.E.B. Du Bois when he says, and listen, and I want you to listen carefully to this. Now is the time, not tomorrow, not some more convenient season. It is today that our best work can be done, and not some future day or future year. It is today that we fit ourselves for the greater usefulness of tomorrow. Today is the seed time. Now are the hours of work. And tomorrow comes the harvest and the playtime. So I really lean in on these words from Du Bois today as I talk with you about the strategic approaches leading to actions and the imperatives of these times to deliver. So during this session, I'm not going to share a whole bunch of slides. Those slides are for the workshop later on this afternoon, okay? I just have one picture, and I'm going to just... Am I doing this right? All right. I'm doing this right, yes. This is just a picture of flowers growing in a garden. Now, to be transparent, I'm passionate about gardening and often draw parallels between gardening and various aspects of life. And just another caveat note, I suffer from bad allergies. So the gardening and the allergies and the Zyrtec. Yes. But, and so as I share this picture, and this is going to stay up for the entire time that I talk, okay? That I also respect the fact that some will see this picture in just hues of black and white, or may not be able to see the picture at all. So I will describe it, all right? Imagine these flowers came into existence, growing from seeds, planted and nourished with bountiful soil, watered with rain, cared for with the morning dew, and able to thrive because of the daily rays of sun. Flowers that are very different in color, in shape, in size, and type, but somehow come together to make a mosaic of a garden, existing in harmony and contributing to what we hope supports resilience, joy, and thriving. That's the garden that we're talking about, that we all want to build in these communities that we are a part of, right? This so reminds me of the promise of our communities and the people who make up our communities, with care, with guidance, collaboration, partnerships, services, resources, support, respect, love, and hope. And you know, I've so often heard people talk about, you can't talk about that love thing in a work environment. Yes, you can. And Rosalyn, thank you for telling us about the hope story. That's all right. Because those are the things that will continue to drive us. We can realize with all of these things, with the hope, with the love and the respect, we can realize a beautiful garden. We are all part of this garden and play a vital role in its existence. So do you all agree with me? So we're going to walk through this garden here today, right? All right. As community members, as public service professionals, as human beings, we are a collective of individuals committed to building a strong and resilient community. You know, last night, I was up probably a little bit later than I needed to have been, especially when I knew I had to get up this morning to be here. But I watched on television, it was on MSNBC, you know, where they had a program with all the federal workers who had been laid off, you know, coming together to talk about what has been going on. And, you know, the resounding, a lot of these federal workers, you know, worked in Department of Education, USAID, so many other places. But as I heard, you know, many of them tell their stories, the resounding theme for so many of these individuals is that they cared about the communities of which they were serving, whether they were here in the United States or any other part of the world. Their concern was about the people, the children, the communities, right? So, again, because we are stronger together, I hope that everyone is feeling good right now and ready to move along as we continue to talk about strategies. All right, so how you doing? You good? Do we need to move around a little bit? I almost feel like I should have brought some reggae music with me this morning. Yeah? All right. So I have a breaking headline here for you, right? We're all cultural beings. And allow me to emphasize this again. We are all cultural beings. Anyone have any idea why I'm emphasizing this today? Any thoughts? I've done countless workshops on cultural competence and talking about culture, and often I ask some participants to say, hey, raise your hand and tell me. It's a trick question. Tell me if you have a culture or not. And invariably, I would see there were people that wouldn't raise their hand or wouldn't even acknowledge that they had a culture. And that blows my mind. Because not only do we all have a culture, okay, we belong to numerous cultures, right? That transcend race, ethnicity, gender, geography, and the list goes on. There's so many dimensions of diversity that we have, and then therefore culture that is brought to the table for us. It's amazing. And I would argue that many of us are very bicultural, tricultural, multicultural, all right? Okay? You ever had a conversation, when you talk to somebody outside of your field about what you do, and they kind of look at you like saying, what? Huh? Yeah. Because culture is defined as a set of norms, values, habits, and customs that are held by a specific group of people. And we rely on that culture so frequently, just in ways that we don't even think about regularly, right? We just do what we do because It's been ingrained in us to do it. Now, by virtue of the fact of, the sound coming out of my mouth, many of you may already figured out that I'm not from these parts, right? I come from the West Indies. I come from the island of Jamaica with a very strong culture. Remember I told you I should have brought some reggae music in here this morning? All right, But, one of the things, growing up in Jamaica, I was accustomed, we just did things. It wasn't until I came to the United States to come to school that I realized how much of this culture that I had just literally taken for granted was so embedded in me and so obvious to all those around me. And it went beyond just how I physically looked or how I sounded, but just even how I interacted and reacted and perceived. So again, we all have a culture. Can you say that with me? We all have a culture. We all belong to multiple cultures. Yes. Okay. So this again, it encompasses our thoughts, our behaviors and responses, the places we live and work and play, our perceptions of the world, and the ways we react and interact in the world. Culture is invisible, again, I said, an invisible force that shapes our identities and our collective existence, often in ways that are not conscious to us. So I love to tell this story. Every Sunday morning, after you get up, in any West Indian household, that is cooking time for real, right? And most of that cooking happens with things that many of you may not be very familiar with. Fried fish, boiled green bananas, fried festivals, which are similar to hush puppies here. That's a Sunday morning breakfast. I remember coming here to go to school and walking into the cafeteria of my university, Catholic U, on the Sunday morning, the first Sunday morning. There was no fried fish. Certainly were no green bananas, and forget about the fried festivals, okay? I saw ham and bacon and eggs, and to my mind, that was a snack. That wasn't breakfast time. There was something else coming along, But I had to adapt. And that's one of the things that culture teaches us how to do, or helps us to do in Transcends, is that, we're able to adapt to circumstances and our situations and to move on, right? I do a lot of work in East Africa. And as a result of it, every time I go, I learn something new, whether it be Nairobi, Kenya, or Lusaka, Zambia, or Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, right? It's something new, vibrant cultures that are very different, but also very similar from my own. I remember getting up for the very first time when I visited Nairobi, Kenya. And I got up that morning because the plane had landed after some 15 hours of travel time at 1:30 in the morning, and I walked off of the plane onto the tarmac and into this airport. I, got to the hotel, and I remember getting up the next morning and looking out the window and thinking to myself, if somebody didn't tell me that I actually took a flight and came, I was in Nairobi, Kenya, I would have thought that I was in Kingston, Jamaica, because there was so much that was so familiar to me. So much that was, and although it was different, it was familiar. So you see, these are the things that bind us a lot of the times, that sometimes we're just so quick to look for the differences instead of looking for the similarities that we share with each other. All right. So, again, culture is deeply ingrained in our essence as individuals and as groups. It influences the very fabric of our being, guiding us through the complexities of life and diverse transparencies of this beautiful tapestry that we call the human experience. Again, I'm going to say this. We are all cultural beings. So, as I mentioned, I get really excited when we talk about culture and its importance in providing effective services within communities. Understanding culture and becoming familiar with culture is important. We focus on moving towards being what we call culturally and linguistically competent. And Amy, I just have to say, I am just so happy that here in Carroll County, you embrace the cultural and linguistically competent standards, right? And that you're developing strategic plans around this so that this is embedded in the work that you're doing and the service delivery that you're providing here. Many of you already, I know, are familiar with the concept of cultural and linguistic competence. I'm not trying to call anybody out, right? But just even kind of shake your head just a little bit. Or yeah, you've been to a workshop or a session or something like that before. You're probably very much involved in the strategic planning for cultural competence. So we're going to talk about this today. So, I could provide you with a textbook definition of what we mean by cultural and linguistic competence, but I'm not going to really do that. I'm going to share a story instead to illustrate what I mean. I provided technical assistance, like I said, to communities all across America. And I remember when I first started in this role, I had to travel to Montana, to a place called Fort Belknap, Montana. Anybody familiar with Fort Belknap, Montana? It is the most beautiful place. You want to talk about wide open, broad, beautiful skies. But it takes a long time to get there. And when you get there, you probably need to stay for a while. So I had gotten a request for some technical assistance and some training to be provided to the community. And, so we'd gotten the request in my office, and we thought about, okay, we're going to go do this. We can do this. And so we had just one call with the TA provider, one call, and that's significant. We had one call, okay? And based upon that one call and what we had, what was written in the request, we moved ahead without even thinking twice about putting together this training, developing an agenda with, and putting resources together just based upon one phone call and what we had written on that technical assistance request. Are you getting the sense that this probably is going to turn out to be a disaster? Yeah. So, we made the reservations. Now, of course, to travel you have to go to one place and then drive, right? Do a long drive. So it made travel arrangements and everything. And, we're working with this agenda. We're going to go in overnight, spend the day, and then, roll back out in the afternoon trying to catch a flight. All of that. We get to the site where we're supposed to start the training. And of course, the agenda said we're going to start this thing at 8:30 in the morning, right? Little did we know that it was our plan to start it at 8:30 in the morning. But the people that we were there to work with didn't think that it was going to start at 8:30, at least not the training itself. Probably the gathering, probably the talking, probably the community building and networking and all that were going to go on. And I remember standing in that room and thinking to myself, the hours are going, the agenda is not being addressed, and we got a flight to catch later on today. And we're sitting here nervous and trying to, to kind of get things sorted out and, get this training started and hand out the materials and, and just, it was a disaster. It was a disaster on so many levels because not only were the resources, those training materials that we thought we had put together and that were going to really meet the needs of the community members that were there, useless. A waste of time. Culturally inappropriate, right? Because guess what? We didn't bother to stop to take the time to really examine and to talk and to get to know this community and the individuals in it. Not just, from this perspective of geography, but also history, but also culture and tradition, and to really put into context some of those needs. So, again, as I said, needless to say, this was not effective, and we didn't do the community or myself or any of my colleagues any justice. Honestly, being culturally competent involves recognizing, understanding, and respecting the diverse cultural backgrounds, traditions, and values of individuals. It includes being aware of one's own cultural influences and biases, and adapting one's behaviors and practices to meet the cultural needs of others. Have we ever been in that situation, any of us? You've been there, right? Okay, I'm just gonna give you half a second to kind of think about it. And just think about, if I had to do it again, what would I do differently? Okay. Where individuals, there were individuals at the meeting, at this training session that we went to, that could have really benefited from some better, what I call calibration or understanding of how we, went about doing things. I could have used less jargon and less acronyms. Does that, yeah. Yeah, in how, as we were describing things. And in fact, there were several people in attendance whose language wasn't even English, and we did not even make accommodations for that. Oh dear. So as you think about, linguistic competence, what it refers to is the ability to understand and communicate effectively with individuals who speak different languages. It includes interpretation and translation services, using clear and accessible language and being sensitive to the linguistic nuances and preferences. My dad, when he was alive, used to say to my sister and myself all the time, when he was asking us to do something, would you like to do something? Now, if you knew my dad, you'd know that the would you like to do something that would sound to the outside world as that he's asking you was really, don't do it and see what happens to you, right? So my friends used to come over to our house all the time, and they were like, Karen, your dad is like really cool. He's actually asking if you'd like to do something. I'm like, no, the man really means we need to do it. And I'm not trying to find out the consequences if I don't, hear that, right? But again, it's all about that piece around the language, right? So I just want to take a few minutes here and just let me sum up what we talk about when we say cultural and linguistic competence. It is important to provide effective services because it helps to enhance communications, that ensures that how we communicate is clear, respectful, and effective, bridging gaps between service providers and recipients. First, it also means it fosters improved client satisfaction. When services are tailored to cultural and linguistic needs, clients feel understood and valued, leading to higher satisfaction and trust in the services provided. Can I say that again? Trust in the services provided. Cultural and linguistic competence promotes equitable service delivery. Recognizing and addressing culture and cultural differences helps eliminate disparities and ensures that all individuals receive fair and just treatment. It supports accessibility and helps remove barriers, making services more accessible to diverse populations. It contributes to strengthen community relations by fostering positive relations with the community, promoting collaboration and mutual respect. And it helps us to realize effective approaches to problem solving. Understanding the cultural context allows service providers to identify and address issues more effectively, leading to better outcomes. What cultural and linguistic competence really guides us to do is to reach beyond ourselves, to reach outside of our circles, our groups, our departments, our agencies, to embrace the voices, the ideas, the perspectives of others, not necessarily like ourselves, but necessary to meet collective goals, right? So I'm sure that what I just shared with you is really no new news for some of you, but I think it was just worth repeating anywhere. As I look again, as we're building, and walking through this garden, right? So I have a question for y'all right now. Have you ever been involved in something that you had no say in how it was planned and just had to go with it? Or you decided, I'm good, I'm out, I'm not doing this? You've been there, right? For those of you who have siblings, you know how that goes. Especially younger sisters. They like to be planning stuff, and then next thing you know, you arrive at the place and guess what? The bill's yours to pay. That happens to me pretty frequently. Yeah. Yeah. So we've all been in that kind of situation where we've been left out of the loop, so to speak. Right? Just told what to do, or just have to accept things as they are and move on. And sometimes we are able to say, I'm good, I don't want this. But then there are other times when we just have to suck it up and keep it moving and just engage. Right? Sound familiar? Yeah. All right. So sometimes the practice of inclusion can be one of the hardest things that we do when planning for service delivery. It's hard. It's really hard because it's a lot of steps, right? It's hard, but I am going to argue that it is worth every single minute of it. Had I bothered to properly do the planning and think about the concept of inclusion as I prepared for that technical assistance event in Fort Belknap, Montana, it wouldn't have been the colossal disaster that it was. Now, there are challenges that obviously arise from, when you have to accommodate diverse needs and perspectives and preferences to ensure that service is accessible and equitable for everyone involved. We know that, right? Inclusion requires us to consider the varying experiences and backgrounds of those we serve. It's not merely about providing the same resources or opportunities to all, but understanding and addressing the unique barriers that individuals face. It's about addressing and understanding the unique barriers that individuals face. This means that we must be empathetic and proactive in identifying potential obstacles and delivering and really devising solutions that are tailored to the specific needs of the groups that we're serving. Moreover, inclusion demands a continuous commitment to learning and growth. Can I say that again? Inclusion demands a continuous commitment to learning and growth. It involves critically examining our existing practices and being willing to adapt them to the response feedback and changing circumstances. So what we do in 2023, we can't probably do in 2025 because stuff is changing. And we got to get with the times, right? This can be particularly difficult, however, in environments where traditional practices are deeply ingrained, requiring a shift in mindset and approach. Furthermore, effective inclusion often necessitates collaboration and dialogue among varying stakeholders. That's where it gets hard, when we got to be talking to a whole bunch of folks that we're not necessarily regularly are in contact with or may not be like us. These stakeholders, it can be complex, it can be time-consuming, it can also be scary. It can also be fraught a lot of times with dissension, but it's worth working through it. It requires open communication, mutual respect, and the willingness to engage in sometimes very uncomfortable type of conversations that may not get resolved on the first pass, but over time will. The gifts that come from adopting inclusive practices across our organizations are truly remarkable. By being strategic and intentional, we not only enhance the effectiveness of services, but also ignite innovation. You know that word? We're using that word a lot, innovation. We are able to strengthen the social fabric of our communities and foster deeper engagement and recognition. The value of these efforts cannot be understated, and as they lead to more an equitable society. Inclusion is not just a moral imperative, y'all. but a practical necessity for delivering effective human services. So as I was preparing for this talk and thinking about the messaging, I found myself really pondering the word quality, that word, because the title here is culture, inclusion, and then quality. And so, I kind of went down a rabbit hole with, okay, quality, what does this mean? Trying to figure out why, how I could put words to this title, and a real understanding of what does quality have to do with culture and inclusion. So I'm going to ask you just to roll with me for a minute here, right, while I try to explain this. So when you think about quality, what do you think about? Do you think about quality as the ultimate goal we aspire to achieve in our endeavors? Or is it something that naturally follows once we've embraced inclusion and built a strong foundation for service delivery? What does quality truly mean to you? And how do you prioritize it in your work? I just want you to think about that. Quality is a multifaceted concept that holds different meanings depending on the context in which it really is used. So here are some thoughts that I want to share with you about this issue of quality. And it's going to make sense as you try to marry that with the piece around the service delivery, right? Think about quality as about consistency and reliability. In other words, the ability of a product or service to consistently meet certain standards and expectations, right? Because that's what community members and our clients coming into our agencies are expecting, consistency and reliability, right? It implies that reliability where users can depend upon a consistent form of service, right? As we think about quality, we think about another aspect of it being excellence. And this excellence signifies a degree of distinction in performance, craftsmanship, or results. This is often achieved through attention to detail, skills, and the commitment that we have a set of standards. So even the workforce that we're dealing with. When we think about quality again and quality of services, we often focus on value and satisfaction. Quality is also associated with the value provided. It encompasses the satisfaction derived and how well it fulfills the needs of those that are, seeking the services. As we think about quality, we can talk about durability and longevity, indicating that the ability to withstand wear, pressure, or damage over time, demonstrating robustness and longevity. These are all the things that our services are supposed to be doing, okay? Quality can be measured on how we efficiently and effectively provide it and for the intended purpose. Also understand that quality is not static, and by that I mean it requires ongoing efforts to improve and adapt to new standards and expectations. Continuous improvement is a hallmark of quality. So that means, using these data-driven approaches as we continue to drive services and supports. That showcases our dedication to wanting to perform services. And then I would say finally, quality involves placing the client at the center of all of these processes. Can we say that again? Client-centered. Remember back in my days in systems of care, we used to talk about customer-driven, family-driven, and client-centered. All right. It means understanding and addressing the unique needs and preferences of different individuals, provide tailored and satisfactory experiences. All right. So there are some common themes as we talk about this concept of quality. With culture, it intersects and inclusion at the very center. Quality is just a dynamic and encompassing concept, really integral to success and fulfillment of many of our of the services that we provide. So, I just want us to say that regardless of where we sit in this really amazing tapestry, and I call it a tapestry of human service offerings across this county, all right? We all have our eyes set on one thing, and it should be that of achieving quality and integrity, as I just spoke about. And that comes through the delivery of these services. Now, I often talk about delivery of services and meeting quality using a concept called the 5 A's, right? And those 5 A's are accessibility, ensuring availability, ensuring that the services are provided with cultural competence. In other words, they're appropriate to meet the needs, that they are acceptable to those that we're providing them for, and more importantly, that they are affordable, right? That people can really access those. So just one more thing before I close here now, right? And I talk about these 5 A's. Let me just kind of talk quickly with you about what I mean when I say the 5 A's. When we talk about the creating quality, which equals the accessibility, it is creating equal opportunity for, so that we're removing barriers that may exist. When we talk about availability, what we're talking about is ensuring that the needed support services and capacity building efforts are provided through these services. As we focus on this issue of being appropriate in the delivery of services, that really refers to the extent to which we understand the needs, the gaps, the challenges, the strengths, and how we can leverage all of those to facilitate positive outcomes for our service, population. We talk about the 5 A's of acceptability, and that is the extent to which multiple voices, varying perspectives, thoughts, and ideas are leveraged to really come together to meet the needs and the design of these programs and services that we provide. And then there is the whole idea around the affordability, the cost, the Benjamins, right? But then also, this affordability as it relates to, people having access to be able to get to the places, right? So affordability really oftentimes is what stops many of us from accessing some of these services. Can't afford it. Don't know where I'm going to get the money from. Is there a sliding scale going on in this agency? And the list goes on. So we got to think about all of those things. When we're engaging community members, those are some of the questions that we need to ask about. How is it that we are able to facilitate the quality of these services by addressing these 5 A's? Accessibility, availability, appropriateness, acceptability, and affordability. So, we've got our time. All right. So in closing, let me just say this, that I'm seeing this garden will continue to flourish and to water the garden and to have the sun shining on the garden. But I want to just encourage everyone to be really deliberate and to be very intentional as you recognize the value and the importance of differing perspectives. It's all right if we don't agree all the time. What we do, there is strength in that diversity of thought and idea. Research often says to us that, diverse teams outperform homogeneous teams. When you have diverse thought and ideas coming to the table, that's when you can do that ideation. That's when you can have the checks and balances addressed. So diversity is important. So, again, so we got to recognize the diversity. We have to lean in on this concept of fairness. And we all have a role to play in ensuring that we create access and opportunity for all. And then I'd ask you that we continually promote this level of openness so that we're able to have all voices come to the table and to be heard. And of course, as we continue to do this work, we're guided by this concept of cultural and linguistic competence, that we all are on a journey. This is not one of those, one and done. But remember, culture is so much at the center of what we do and should help to drive how we provide services and supports here for those. So I think I'm going to stop right now, Amy. There you go.